Jim Leonhard revenge tour? Is that what's happening now? Let's talk about it on Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Badgers. Your host, Ryan Herring's your team every single day. And what is going on with Jim Leonhard going to Illinois to coach on that staff? Is this a Jim Leonhard revenge tour moment? Let's talk about it, because I got to be honest, news broke today. Jim Leonhard, I wasn't going to go live, but Jim Leonhard is as Wisconsin as cheese curds, right? As Wisconsin as Spotted Cow and Moon Man and J.J. Watt. I mean, he's Wisconsin as Cumberland, right? For him to go to Illinois, he looks so weird with him in a different color ball cap, right? The Illinois ball cap on him. It just looks so odd. Let's talk about it. So I want to start your revenge tour. I don't think so. I think what this is for Jim Leonhard is it's a location with a head coach he's familiar with, a place that's close enough that it's not going to require a giant upheaval of his life, his family's life, which is incredibly important to him. And it's a place where he can continue to sharpen his axe, right? He wants to continue coaching, right? Jim Leonhard wants to be a head coach. He wants to be a premium defensive coordinator. He can stay relevant in the college game at a major Big Ten program, a Big Ten program, and continue to get better, continue to build contacts, to continue to, increase his exposure to, to being a defensive coordinator, a defensive mind, a head coach. So it's all good for him. It just is so weird to see him in a different ball cap, right? It's going to be so weird to see him. He's going to be coaching against Wisconsin this year. Think about that. Jim Leonhard is going to be drawing up a defense to try to stop the Wisconsin Badgers. That sentence doesn't even feel it. And good for him, right? He needs to do this if he's going to continue on his coaching career. There's no reason he shouldn't do this. It just is so weird because of who Jim Leonhard is, because of what he means to Wisconsin, because of what he meant to Wisconsin, and because of how we know he feels about the Wisconsin Badgers and this program. So, it's just so weird to me. I do want to talk a little bit about, this is just a continuation of what we've seen the last 10 years in college football. Really, I think that Nick Saban does a lot of, bringing in really intelligent, high-profile coaches to serve as analysts, because that's what Jim Leonhard's doing. He's serving as a defensive analyst. He's not the DC, he's not the safeties coach, cornerbacks coach, whatever. He's a defensive analyst. And in that role, he doesn't have to stress recruiting. He doesn't have to worry about a lot of the other things. He can just do X's and O's. He can just do game planning. And what a great addition from Brett Bielema. And if you notice in back here, I go WTF, Bert. Bielema is really building a very Badger-centric staff there, right? Antonio Finellis is on the staff. Aaron Henry is the defense coordinator, bringing in Jim Leonhard. And why wouldn't he? You look, what era is Brett Bielema most successful for? It's his Wisconsin era. So why wouldn't he surround himself with Wisconsin people, right? Makes a ton of sense. And for Bielema, you bring in a guy like Leonhard as a defensive assistant, as a defensive analyst. I mean, that's a home run for Bert. So that's a home run for him. It's a way for Jim Leonhard to continue coaching, to continue getting smarter, because nobody knows everything, right? You're even the best in the world at whatever profession they're at have to continue working and grinding and getting better. And this is just an opportunity for Leonhard to do that. But it's just so weird, right? To think of a world where Jim Leonhard is scheming up ways to shut down. I mean, think of it. This is just such a weird time for Wisconsin fans to be alive, right? Jim Leonhard is going to be scheming ways to shut down a Wisconsin air raid system that's going to want to throw the ball all over the place. Think about saying that sentence a year ago, right? Think about saying that sentence 6 months ago. This is a parallel multiverse world here that we're living in. How much better does this make Illinois? It makes them better. Absolutely. You're adding one of the top defensive minds in college football. Yeah, that's a big deal. One of the interesting things for me too is how much better does this make them in their matchup against Wisconsin, right? There is no defensive coach out there that is going to know the intricacies of Braylon Allen's game or DK's game or Lewis's game or Skylar Bell's game better than Jim Leonhard. It absolutely helps Illinois in their matchup against Wisconsin. Now, it's not quite the checkmate move it would have been because Wisconsin has shifted their scheme so dramatically. New offensive coordinator, quarterback, receivers, offensive linemen. So Illinois is not going to go into that game against Wisconsin with the type of defensive advantage it would have had if Wisconsin had lost Leonhard and not shifted schemes or quarterbacks, but it still helps them, right? He still has been around half the receivers on this team around Braylon Allen. He's going to have a better idea how to combat those guys than someone else would, just because he's been under the hood with them, right? He's seen his defense practice against those guys, so he's going to know better than anyone what he can do to throw DK off a little bit, or where Keontae Lewis is most uncomfortable, for example, or the type of issues that Jack Nelson faces, because he saw him practice every time. Like, so he has more extensive experience with those things and those types of matchups, but I don't think it's an enormous deal because of the way Wisconsin has shifted its scheme. There's some comments in here too. Falls 56 says, think we'll ever be in a position where we are getting coaches as analysts. So we have Wisconsin this year did bring in two analysts, on the defensive side and the football side. They're just not of the pedigree or the scope of a Jim Leonhard, right? Or what Alabama has done. So I hope that we are at some point, because this has become, in the arms race of college sports, being able to bring in a big-time former assistant, a big-time former coach, just to serve as an analyst, it's given some of the major programs a bit of a leg up, right? Because you're smarter when you have those guys in your staff. You're smarter. You're a better staff if you have a Jim Leonhard serving as an analyst. And again, for those who may not know, analysts don't count against your coaching restrictions. You can have as many analysts as you want, right? Which is a loophole that the bigger programs have started using. It's not even a loophole, it just is what it is. So if you can bring in really intelligent analysts to help game plan, to help scheme up, even if they can just find one mismatch somewhere, right? You're telling me Jim Leonhard's not going to find one situation in the Wisconsin game that he's going to be able to exploit a little bit better? Of course he is. So it's a huge advantage. And Falls 56, it's a great question. I'm not sure if Wisconsin's going to get to that point. It requires a lot of money, which I don't know. It requires money and also the right circumstances. So I'm not sure. Falls 56 balls up requires an absurd amount of money. Jake Mayer says, live show during work. Time to pull up the third monitor. Let's go, Jake. Definitely got to get Jake on the show. Adamato says, my biggest question is why? I think it's staying relevant in the college game. I think it's as simple as that. You want to stay relevant in the college game if you want to have a future in it. And it's not like if Jim Leonhard did nothing this year, people are going to forget about him. But this is just another way to continue getting better, sharper, and position. This is a one-year move. Let's be super clear on this. Jim Leonhard is not going to be a defensive analyst for Illinois more than 1 year. So this is going to be a springboard for him to become another defensive coordinator somewhere or a head coach somewhere. But it's better than doing nothing. It's better than sitting out all offseason. You continue to learn. The more you do anything, no matter how good you are, you continue learning, right? It's why the greatest college basketball coaches, in the offseason, they still go to clinics and they still try to get smarter. It's because you have to continue learning and continue getting sharper. And this is just a great opportunity for Jim Leonhard to do that. Chad Collier says, no, the Darth Vader, no. Yeah, agreed. Mike D says, wow, seriously? Jim Leonhard must have had better offers than this. I believe this is for revenge and job security. Make no mistake about it. Jim Leonhard is a competitive dude, and that game against Wisconsin is going to be circled for him. It just is. He's going to, again, how big of an impact it can make, I don't know. Is it a zero impact? No, it's an impact. Jim Leonhard on that staff is an impact for them. It helps them. Let's see. Brian Shetty says, yeah, this surprised me for sure. When you zoom out, it really doesn't surprise you. Like, he wants to continue coaching. It's a local place. It's a Big Ten school. He has familiarity with the head coach there, right? It's borderline shocking to see Mr. Wisconsin with a ball cap that doesn't have the Bucky or the Motion W on it. We're going to come up. We got more comments coming up. Plus, Big Ten Media Days. Why Tanner Mordecai being one of the people there means a lot to me. We're going to talk about that and more coming up on Locked On Badgers. Definitely do want to say thank you to everybody tuning in. As always, really do appreciate it. But first, we're going to talk about our new friends of the show, great friends of the show over at eBay Motors. This is something we've talked about a lot. You need the right pieces on your team to build a championship product. But listen, Bert Bielema understands that. That's why he's getting the right pieces on his coaching staff with Jim Leonhard. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure that every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to my garage, look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win with the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. I do want to say thank you to everybody tuning in. Let's talk a little media day here. We're going to continue talking Jim Leonhard too. I want to touch on one thing with media day. It's the fact, Braylon Allen is going. The Badgers, like every team, you have 3 representatives. So Muma's going, Braylon Allen's going. Those two, to me, feel like very obvious, simple thing. Like those are probably the face of the franchise on both sides of the ball. Braylon Allen at running back, one of the top in the nation. Muma coming back. The career he's had, a veteran, a great season last year. Tanner Mordecai going. Now, this is interesting to me only in the sense that if he wasn't going, you would have a lot of concerns, right? First year with the program, and there was a year several years ago, Michigan State. Was it Cousins? It wasn't Cousins. It was the other quarterback. I can't think of his name right now. But he wasn't elected as a captain, right? And everyone said, "Oh, it's not a big deal. They have other leaders." No. Like the quarterback always has to be one of your leaders. He has to be, right? From an intangible leadership, everything, your quarterback has to be one of your guys. And the fact that he's going to media day at least tells you that he's earned the respect in the locker room. So I think that's a big deal. Preseason polls are out. Wisconsin finished our preseason conference polls are out. Wisconsin is predicted to win the Big Ten West again and lose to Michigan in the Big Ten title game. So yeah, I think that makes sense. Iowa is second place in that, and then Minnesota, I think, got one first place vote. Listen, this is Wisconsin's. I've talked about it. This is Wisconsin's division to win this year. The schedule lines up, the talent lines up. This is Wisconsin's division to win, and you got to do it. It's the last year of the East and West layout. So I think they're going to win it this year. I thought they were going to win it last year, to be honest. But I think that there is a noticeable talent advantage for Wisconsin, and I think the schedule breaks out for them, and that's reflected in the Big Ten Conference Bowl. Media days are here. Like, football is like 40 days away, y'all. Can you feel this? Let's keep getting some of these comments here. Again, the big news, Jim Leonhard going to Illinois. BZ says this kind of feels like a bit of a betrayal. I'd understand if he took a Big Ten coordinator or head coaching job, but this just feels spiteful. Like, I get the sentiment. BZ, thank you for the comment. Like, I get the sentiment. Sentiment is a thing at the bottom of the oceans. I get the sentiment. Yeah, it feels that way, but when you zoom out, what would you expect him to do, right? So as fans, we have this unique ability to always circle the wagons, right? To always kind of defend our colors, right? The Wisconsin brand, whatever it is. But if you're Jim Leonhard, you have put your heart and soul into Wisconsin, right? Last year, you thought you were probably going to get the opportunity to be the head coach, and then they moved on. So if you're in his shoes, what is he supposed to do? Not take any positions? Again, like, he's not a guy that wants to move halfway across the country. Illinois is a local place. He knows the head coach. Obviously, he has a relationship with Bielema. It makes a ton of sense. It's just, again, it's the idea of Jim Leonhard coaching at a rival Big Ten school that it's jarring a little bit as a Wisconsin fan. I mean, I don't know if you can think of another more Wisconsin guy, right? But in the comments, if you can think of one, can you think of a more through and through Wisconsin to the core guy? I don't know if you can than Jim Leonhard, football or basketball, and him coaching at Illinois with Bielema in a game where Wisconsin's going to be playing Illinois on the road this year. And that's a storyline, right? At some point, the camera's going to pan to Jim Leonhard during that game. It's just a wild storyline to me. It's not something I would have predicted really ever happening. Let's keep getting some of these comments here, a bunch of them. Let's see. Cannon L says, betrayal. If anyone betrayed anyone, Wisco betrayed him. Yeah, Cannon. Like, that's probably more accurate. But again, I don't think anybody betrayed anyone. And I'm not saying you're saying that. Like, they brought in Luke Fickell. They got he is inarguably the better choice to be a head coach for this program than Jim Leonhard at this respective stages of their career. So I don't think they betrayed Leonhard. And I don't think Leonhard going to Illinois is Leonhard betraying Wisconsin. It's just, again, it's going to make for one hell of a storyline this year in Champaign. It's going to make for one hell of a storyline. Adam Otto says, wonder if he wanted something a bit more chill, less taxing. Yeah, I think that's exactly like Jim Leonhard. So one of the weird things that always stuck out to me with Jim Leonhard is I thought that when he became a secondary coach and then a defensive coordinator, I thought Leonhard would recruit better than he did. Guys, let me know if you agree or disagree with that. I thought he would be a dynamic recruiter because he's young and he's intelligent and he's successful and he could sell Wisconsin because he came from there, but he was an NFL guy and Rex Ryan loved him, right? But we never really saw this dramatic uptick in secondary recruiting. Like we never really saw it from Leonhard. And I think what I might have misread or misthought was Leonhard is kind of cut from the Christ cloth, right? He wants to do X's and O's. He wants to scheme. He wants to watch film. He wants to be around the players. I don't think he wants to do, Adam, your point, I don't think he wants to do recruiting. I don't think he wants to do a lot of those other things. So this is something that for him, he can just settle in, focus on X's and O's, trying to stop this Longo offense. How fascinating is that matchup going to be, by the way? Leonhard versus Longo. Well, Leonhard and Aaron Henry versus Longo. I just can't wait. It's going to be so much fun, so much fun. Big Apple Bucky says, not technically an assistant. He's an analyst. Yep. As such, I believe he's not allowed to directly coach players. He can on game day. I think during the week they can work with players. Big Apple Bucky. Someone let me know if I'm wrong on that. I thought during the week they could a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe that's not the case. He can definitely be involved in schemes and game planning and X's and O's and film study, though. And that's a great spot for him, right? Like he's going to be excellent in that role. Listen, I've said this before on the show. I had a source in the program that Jim Leonhard was going to be the next DC at Wisconsin. Like that was happening at one point. It might be the same source. I know this is something Jeff Petroikis reported on and got hammered for. I never really put mine out there because I didn't want to jump the gun. So maybe he had the same source that I did. But there was a point in time in this Luke Fickell timeline where Leonhard was going to be the guy at that DC, or at least co-defensive coordinator who's going to remain on the staff. And then for whatever reason, it didn't fall through. But my point is, in that moment, everybody was ecstatic to have Leonhard potentially coming back. So this is a huge win for Bielema. You're adding a whiz kid, a defensive X's and O's whiz kid to your staff. So it's a home run for him, for Bielema. And I think it's a potentially really good move for Leonhard as well, right? You're going to stay relevant in the college game, but you don't have to move that much. You know, you're not recruiting. You have a great opportunity just to continue coaching, right? And without a ton of pressure, quite frankly. Like, you know, he doesn't have the spotlight on him this year, and next year you're going to see him spring into something else. This is a one-year thing. Be very clear for that. Jake Mayer says it's a good opportunity for him, surrounded by guys he knows. It keeps him in the game while he looks for a new job. But man, this is strange. That is very well said, because it's all true. All that's true. Everything makes sense on paper. But man, this is strange. Yeah, I agree. Kev G says Bielema, Henry, Leonhard might as well start calling the school Southern Wisconsin University. Yeah. But again, so this is really interesting to me too. Bielema is surrounding himself with pieces from his most successful era, which makes sense. However, you can also limit yourself by surrounding yourself with people and things that don't challenge you, right? It's a little bit what Paul Chryst was doing. Paul Chryst was so surrounded by Wisconsin guys that I think we had trouble getting out of our own box, right? We had trouble being a little creative. And if Bielema's not careful, he's going to end up in that same kind of box where you can be surrounded by too much of the same, if that makes sense. But listen, Leonhard is inarguably a great get. Justin says, I was thinking he was going to take a year off. Seems like he waited a while to coach this year because Leonhard could have gotten a lot better job. Yeah, he could have. But again, I think he's being strategic. Like, I think he knows Leonhard is young enough and young enough and respected enough that he didn't need to make the power move this year, right? He can sit back and really snipe the best job that fits for him. And I think that's going to be next off season. We're going to take a very quick break for friends of the show, come back with some of the comments, a bunch more with Jim Leonhard, some of the chat, as well as, am I the most negative guy on Badgers football? Someone's telling me I am way too negative. I want to talk about that coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. And a quick second to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Y'all are amazing. And let's just get into it. Let's start with this comment here. This is from Adam Phillips. Ryan might be one of the most negative people who talks about the football program. Am I? Am I a negative guy? I don't know. I feel like on the scale of negative to positive, right, where Rajiv is Rajiv is tipping the scales at one spot. I feel like I'm middle. I feel like I'm middle, right, but sliding a little positive. I don't think I'm that negative. Here's what I'm negative about. I don't think the defensive line is great, right? I don't think we're going to beat Ohio State. I don't think we're going to win a title in the next 10 years because it's really hard to do. I don't think we should have let Garrett Sexton go. But I love the move to Fickle. I think it puts Wisconsin in a better spot. I love the recruiting efforts. I like this class a lot. I think Raphael Dunn is going to be an NFL hybrid. I mean, I think he's going to be a stud. I could go on and on. I don't think I'm that negative, y'all. Maybe I am. I don't know. Let me know. I don't think I'm that negative. Jared Mate says Wisconsin didn't betray Jim Leonhard. They did what's best for the program. There's no loyalty in multi-million-dollar corporations. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think Wisconsin betrayed JL or Jim Leonhard. I really don't. I think they went to who they thought was the best coach for the position, and the best coach for the position, the head coach position, was Fickle. I don't think that's arguable. They were able to land a home run. And listen, Fickle would get hired over just about anybody. It's not a Jim Leonhard thing. It's a Luke Fickle thing, right? The Wisconsin could have had just about any hotshot assistant on their staff, you name it, and Luke Fickle's getting hired over that guy. That's a Luke Fickle thing. It's not a Jim Leonhard thing. So I agree with that. Badger Boardmouth says realistic is not negative. Thank you. I'm not negative. Just because listen, not everybody can be Rajiv. Let's see. Let's keep going here. Greg Linscomb says being a head coach last year had a lot of stress. I think this is Jim's working vacation year. I think that's well said. Rio C's says, I agree with you, Ryan. Steve Mitchell says it'd be satisfying to put up 50 on Bielema and Jimmy. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to put up 50 on Jimmy. Is that weird? Bielema, yes. Listen, let's be super clear on this. We could boat race Bielema, and I'm going to feel great about it. But here's the thing. If you're a defensive analyst, because that's what he is, if Wisconsin puts up 50 on them, the spotlight's not going to Jimmy, right? It's going to Bielema. It's going to Aaron Henry. It's going to be great to put up 50 in every game because we haven't seen it in a long time, and I can't wait for the Longo experiment to really get rolling. But there's no part of me that wants to see Jimmy get boat raced, right? I don't know. It's so weird to see him on a different UW staff. Again, I haven't seen if anyone's put anything in the comments about this. I don't know if there's a more Wisconsin guy through and through that would be weirder to see him coaching at a different staff. I just don't know. Brian Shetty says, if you're negative, then I'm afraid of how I would be viewed. I'm not a negative guy. Listen, I worry about our defensive line. Is that crazy? I worry about our pass rush. I think there's some questions there. Rio C says Jimmy picked his side. Yeah, as well he should. Listen, they're not going to, certainly nobody's going to take it easy on Illinois because Jimmy's there, right? We're not going to feel bad when we score on that defense this year. That's a very fair point. Brendan O says, say goodbye to Braylon Allen. He will transfer. Whew. Boy, I hope that's not based on a good source. I doubt it. I just can't see that. Luke Fickle is a stud head coach, right? And Braylon Allen has all he's done has been excited to run into 6-man boxes that Phil Longo is going to provide for him. So I couldn't see BA leaving Wisconsin to go to Illinois based on a defensive analyst. That would be shocking to me. Absolutely shocking to me. Atheist 14 says, definitely not too negative. Objectively based on Vegas odds, you're too optimistic. Yeah, I'm definitely taking that over 8.5. Let's keep going. A bunch more comments. I want to get into this one too. This is from an Ohio State fan because we're talking about coaching. Dave Rice said, please come home, Luke. I miss when the Buckeyes played football like men. Again, this goes back to it. There's no loyalty there's no disloyalty to Jim Leonhard when Wisconsin hired Luke Fickle. Luke Fickle is a stud hire, so I'm not too worried about that. Bunch more comments in here. Let's just keep getting some of these in. Brendan O follows up with BA was recruited by Leonhard and he will follow. I just don't see it, man. He's going to the NFL after this year. What sense would it make to go to Illinois? He's going to be in a better offense at Wisconsin. He's going to look better. He's going to put up better film. He's in a comfort zone. The offensive line is going to be better. I don't see it. Donnie Hayes says, does the Harbaugh news help the Badgers recruiting at all, especially on the defensive line? So Harbaugh is, it was reported today Harbaugh is going to be suspended for 4 games. So does that impact defensive line recruiting at all? I would love to say yes. I don't think so. Like if it was Harbaugh's going to miss the year or Michigan is in serious trouble, Donnie, I think that's something that maybe could flip like a Nichols to Wisconsin. Obviously Nichols has Clemson after him as well. But 4 games, I just can't see any recruit going through the process saying Michigan's my place. And keep in mind the recruits that are recruited, they're not playing this year anyway. So I don't see a 4-game suspension by Harbaugh impacting that much. Would I love it to? Yeah, but I don't see it. Nicholas D says, Brendan, are you an Illinois fan? Because what are you smoking, bro? Yeah, listen, I just can't see it. Chris Hart says the same thing. Allen following an analyst is far-fetched. Listen, if it happens, Brendan, we'll come back and give you all the credit. That would be one of the crazier storylines I've seen since Chris Borland kicking extra points for the Badgers. Logan Couch says, if Jimmy wants to go to a subpar Big Ten team, let him. See, I don't even think it's like I wouldn't look at it in that lens. Like I don't think he necessarily, obviously he wants to go there. He wouldn't take the job if he didn't want it. But I just think he wants to stay coaching relevant. And Illinois offers a pretty easy way to do that from the analyst role where he's not going to be overtaxed, but he can continue growing. I don't think it's like he was been dreaming of going to Illinois, right? And this opportunity is there. He's like, yes, I'm so excited to get to Illinois. I think he just wants to coach football. I think he loves X's and O's. I think he likes being in the process. And this gives him a path to do that. And in the meantime, if he can maybe get a little revenge against Wisconsin, I don't think that would cause him to sleep poorly at night. Dan Pazdernick says, shocked. Happy for Jimmy, though. That's 4 Wisconsin alumni on the Illinois staff. Again, Bielema surrounded himself with people that he was successful with, and that makes sense. That's what a lot of people do. Rio C says, why not keep your heart in Madison if you love the program so much? He was offered a job here with a better head coach to learn from. That's a great question, Rio. I don't have the insight into what eventually caused the final decision. All I got from the source I had was he was going to stay on as the DC, and then I was told things moved too quickly. That's all I got. Maybe he was I don't know. Maybe he thought there was too many cooks in the kitchen. I'm just speculating here. I don't even want to put that out. I don't know. I don't know what the rationale was there, but it happened. I think Wisconsin is in a good spot. Tressel is going to be a really good DC for us, I think. Leonhard is certainly not going to hurt for opportunities going forward. So I don't know. It comes back to it's going to be so strange to see him on that other sideline. BZ said, I guarantee the guys on the team who were on the roster last year are going to be fired up to light that Illinois defense up. I don't think because of Jimmy, though, right? I think Jimmy's respect level is really high in the locker room. We saw that with the comments from the players, right? The players who were going to bat for him were vouching for him. So I don't think they're going to be fired up to light him up. I think getting blasted by Illinois last year is going to light a fire in these guys, and they're going to want to go in and light that team up because of what happened last year on the field, not because of Jimmy. That's just my take on it, though. And listen, let's wrap it up there. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. I wasn't even planning on doing a show, but Jimmy's he's such a Mr. Wisconsin guy that I just thought it would be a fun thing to chop up with everybody. Media days tomorrow. Bunch more content coming up this week for the everydayers. Should have an interview with Dylan Jones's high school coach. Another one coming up with Mabry Met-Toyer's dad. Talk a little bit about his journey. I think we have CJ Williams' dad coming up. More recruiting talk with Brian Smith. So a bunch coming up this week, next week, as we start to really transition into preseason prep. Positional previews are coming as well. So on Wisconsin, really do appreciate. Brendan O says he's a big Wisconsin fan, but I see him trusting Leonhard more. I don't, man. But again, if it happens, we'll give you credit. Anyway, on Wisconsin, we're going to talk to everybody again later today or tomorrow for sure. And let's go.